Uh, okay, fine. So today we have to start the ultrasonic welding. I hope I have already shared the practical related with the ultrasonic welding. Have you seen this? Okay, good. Yeah, that's fine because that will give you the better idea of like what I am talking about. So uh, the broadly the ultrasonic welding is similar to that of the explosive welding, where the micro interfacial deformation is used for development of a weld joint, that too in the solid state. Okay, so this is the kind of similarity that both explosive and ultrasonic welding processes share. But the way by which this in micro level interfacial deformation, which is realized in ultrasonic welding, is a little different. In explosive welding, it is impact of one of the members with the other member, leading to the high speed collision, and that in turn leading to the interfacial deformation and development of the metallurgical joint. Here, the approach of the realizing the interfacial deformation with the use of ultrasonic vibrations. These ultrasonic vibrations are applied uh, to the assembly or to the components to be joined. These vibrations, these ultrasonic vibrations used for joining are found in the range of like say the 10 to 70 kilohertz, and the vibration amplitude ranges ranges from like say the 2 to 5 micrometer. It is common to use the ultrasonic vibrations of about 20,000 kilohertz as 20,000 hertz or 20 kilohertz. So the process uh, for development of the joint, as far as the requirement of the ultrasonic welding for developing the joint is that, you see, one member, like explosive welding, here also one member should be soft, ductile and thin also. So in general the process is limited for thin sheets, films and wire joining. So this is what is true for your mostly metals. In case of the non-metals, even the very thicker sections also can be joined, because like the polymers are joined with the metals, or the polymer to polymer joining is realized. There you can use the thicker sections as well. So the process is very interesting here. Like say, uh, this is one member through which vibrations are being transmitted. to the components to be joined. So what we'll be doing, we'll be applying the clamping force, or the assembly to be joined is kept under pressure using suitable clamping force. So based on this, the diameter of the tip through which the vibrations are being applied, we'll say the pressure. The assembly is kept under certain pressure which can be changed. Okay, so this is one thing. So say there is a load P applied over a area A, so P by A will simply give you the kind of pressure being applied, and it will be uniformly distributed. If you see the top view of the sheet or the interface zone, so the pressure will be uniformly distributed over the entire area, and this is, say, uniform across the uniform over the entire area through which these vibrations are being applied. Okay, this is the stress distribution aspect. So the pressure, you can say, is uniform, or compressive stresses are uniform at the joint interface. But apart from this compressive load, the tip is also made to vibrate, that too laterally. So the tip vibrating laterally at say 20 kilohertz with the amplitude of the 2 to 5 micrometer, that too under pressure. So what it will be doing, say this is the tip and it is moving laterally. So obviously there will be some kind of the interfacial deformation between the tip of the tool and the top surface of the workpiece. We want that this effect of the vibrations and pressure on the surface, top surface of the workpiece is minimum, but still it is there. So there is one thing, like the top surface of the workpiece will be experiencing the little surface layer deformation. This is one aspect. We want that this top surface layer deformation under the effect of the under the effect of this tool tip, or you can say sonotone tip, on that I will come little later. This effect is minimum. Okay. But the same thing also happens at the interface with much greater severity. So this lateral movement being given at ultrasonic frequency of 2 to 5 micrometer, this will be generating the shear stresses. So shear stresses once being generated in one direction and then another direction because of this vibratory movement being given to the tool. Okay, so basically the tool is vibrating laterally. Okay, this is one, and because of this vibratory movement there will be shear stresses. So the shear stresses in one direction for one half cycle, and then in opposite direction for another half cycle. So the shear stresses. So now whether it is the top surface which is in contact with the tool tip, or the interface between the two sheets which are being joined. They will be experiencing the two types of the stresses. One is compressive stress, that is what we are saying as uniform under the tool tip, and that is also being termed as pressure. And another is the shear stresses. So is acting in one direction for one half cycle and opposite direction for another half cycle, that too at the interface and the top surface of the workpiece and tool tip interface. Okay, so the thing which is happening here is you are finding a combination of the pressure and shear stresses which are like say reciprocating type, like one in one direction or reversing type and then in another direction. So because of this, what is happening, this kind of the first pressure which is uniformly distributed and then shear stress. So a combination of these two leads to the first elastic deformation, and when these stresses cross the yield strength of the metal, of course the plastic deformation of micro level takes place. So this plastic deformation, so whenever the two surfaces experiencing elastic and the plastic deformation and rubbing each other with the very small magnitude, so coupled with the friction, elastic plastic deformation, this leads to certain effects. What are those? Like frictional heating, friction effect will be causing the heat generation. So the softening of the metals. Okay, the second, the breaking and fracturing or disrupting the oxide layers which are present. So if there are impurities, those are broken down. Third, the deformation of peaks and valleys which are present. These are called as surface asperities. These are actually termed as surface asperities. These are broken down, and when these three things happen due to the combined effect of normal pressure and the shear stresses, because of these two combined things, your elastic plastic deformation and the frictional effect leading to the heat generation, thermal softening, one, breaking or fracturing or disrupting the oxide films if they are there at the surface, and this in turn will be leading to the direct metal to metal contact, means the nascent metallic surfaces which are free from oxides, they will come in direct metal to metal contact. This is also coupled with the deformation of peaks and valleys or surface asperities present at the surface. So once this happens, you will find that the two components have come in direct metal to metal contact. Another effect of this, like the reversing shear stresses, will be causing the deformation of the metal once in one direction and then another direction, and because of this cyclic the surface layer deformation, lot of intermixing of the metal at the interface takes place, and which in turn leads to the generation of these wavy pattern. Okay, so this is what typically happens in case of the metals. If you take the example of the polymers, their heat generation is too high enough for the polymers to sustain the solid state, and therefore at the interface you will notice that melting has taken place. So the fusion followed by the solidification is a kind of thing that will be happening in case of polymer, but in case of the metals it is not so. In case of the metals, it is primarily limited to the thermal softening, deformation, intermixing of the metals, and leading to the either flat or wavy interface generation. Okay, so these are the things that are true for the most of the metallic joints which are being developed using the ultrasonic welding. Okay, now so this is what we can say about the kind of stress pattern which is being generated, and the kind of temperature rise. As far as the temperature rise is concerned, at the interface, that is also very interesting to see. Let's say the two components joined by the ultrasonic welding, and this is the interface. So obviously the rise in temperature will be maximum at the interface like this, and this is the typical for the resistance welding also. So here this peak temperature, usually in metals it is it depends upon the clamping force applied, one. Okay, how much friction and the surface interfacial surface deformation is taking place. These two things will be governing the rise in temperature at the interface, and this interfacial deformation as well as the frictional heating, these two things in turn will depend upon the certain factors, like the kind of clamping force which is being applied, that is one, and the kind of the frequency which is being used, frequency of the vibrations which is being used. And in addition to these, you will see that how long the welding is being, or energy, ultrasonic energy is being applied. So can say the power or the energy being delivered for the welding purpose. Say, so if you continue to supply the energy for longer time, the heat generation will continue to increase, and that in turn will be increasing the temperature. So the clamping force, the energy being delivered, and the frequency of the ultrasonic vibrations which is being applied. Okay, so this rise in temperature usually high enough. Now this interfacial rise in temperature is high enough to cause the certain metallurgical phenomena like diffusion. Whenever it is taking place, although these things will be happening in a very short time of, like say 1 second, 1.5 second, or half of the seconds. So, but still, when the rise in temperature is high enough, then this will be causing the diffusion, then recrystallization at the interface. And if the welding has been continued for unnecessary longer time, then excessive heat generation and the high temperature retention for longer time will be causing the grain growth. Okay, so these are typical indicative of the factors like metallurgical continuity has been established and a sound weld has been developed. So if there is a diffusion, recrystallization and grain growth at the interface zone, this will suggest that a metallurgical joint has been developed. So as far as the peak temperature is concerned, then as a function of time, and here if you have temperature, so you will be getting the weld thermal cycle. Okay, so with the energy which is being delivered, what you will find like peak temperature like this. So the power which is being delivered, like say 2 kilojoule, 2 joule or 3 joule. So that is the like watt per second. At what rate you are delivering the power, that is one. This is one aspect. If you increase the power, the peak temperature will go further high like this. Okay, so this is one aspect. The second aspect is like say the time and temperature. So if you work with the lower pressures, lower clamping force, then the rate of temperature rise is slow, but it goes to the higher values like this. On the other hand, if the pressure is increased, so this is say for low pressure or low clamping force, and if you use high clamping force, then it increases the rate of heat generation, but the peak temperature is somewhat reduced. So the peak temperature in these cases, when we use the high pressure, so the rate of heat generation increases with the increase of pressure, but the peak temperature attained at the interface is reduced. While on the other hand, when we use the lower pressure, the rate of temperature rise or rate of heat generation is lower, but the peak temperature on the higher side. So increasing the power, so low power or high power. So this will be leading to the increasing in the power which is being delivered will simply be increasing the maximum temperature which is being realized. Okay, so if you want to drop here like temperature and the power relationship, so this will be increasing the power, increasing peak temperature. Okay, if we don't have to draw the weld thermal cycle. Okay, so let's see what will be happening at the interface as far as the temperature is concerned. So apart from the clamping force or pressure, what we have the power which is being delivered. Third aspect is thermophysical properties. So you know that increasing thermal conductivity or thermal diffusivity will be reducing the peak temperature which is being realized. This is very simple thing, because whatever interfacial heat is being generated, that will be dissipated very fast, and in turn that will be leading to the reduced temperature, and that is why you may find that the joining of the Fe may be leading to the higher peak temperature as compared to that of the copper or aluminium. Aluminium and copper will be leading to the lower peak temperatures than the iron because of the thermal conductivity difference. Okay, so this is another aspect. Now, what do you think like the interface and the temperature variation across the interface? Okay, so it's about the peak temperature which is being achieved at the interface, and then increasing distance from the interface. So what kind of things that you can expect? The zone which is very close to the interface may be, say, if this is the recrystallization temperature, then distance up to which this kind of the rise in temperature is taking place, that will be experiencing the recrystallized grains. You will be getting the new grains. Okay, and below that you may find some marginal change in the properties. So recrystallized or new or refined grains you may find at the interface, but the problem is if this high temperature is retained for longer period, then apart from these recrystallized grains, you may also get the little grain coarsening. So depending up, so unnecessary longer welding time can lead to not just the rise in temperature but the interfacial grain growth. That is one thing. And the second, if the heating is really excessive and one of the metal is having the eutectic systems out of the two, then you may notice that the partial melting of the eutectic also has taken place in one of the member, which is having the eutectic, and eutectic is leading to the partial melting along the grain boundaries. Okay. Now the third aspect related with the ultrasonic welding, which is really interesting, is the kind of energy that we have to supply. So what we do basically, we supply the normal electrical power which comes at 60 or 50 hertz as per the case, and this is converted using the electrical systems, electrical devices into the high frequency current. So normal electrical current is converted into the high frequency current, say from 50 or 60 hertz to the range of the frequency that is needed, say 10 to 50 or 80 kilohertz. Okay, and then this will be supplied to the transducer. Now there are two types of the transducers. One is the magneto-restrictive type and another is piezoelectric type. So these transducers, what they will be doing, when the high frequency current is supplied, then they will be helping to generate the mechanical movement of that kind of the frequency, and that is exploited in form of the vibrations. These vibrations are later first amplified and then these are focused using the various components to be applied onto the workpiece which is to be welded. So where from we started, electrical power being converted into the high frequency power, then that is fed to the suitable transducers which will be generating the mechanical movement and the vibrations of the high frequency. These are later further amplified, then these are focused, and then these are applied onto the surface of the workpiece. Okay, so this is the sequence. So it has been established. Okay, what has been established, like say this is these are the components being welded. Okay, so whatever is the power, electrical power is being supplied for the vibration purpose, like say the watt per second at this rate, and if you continue to supply for 1 or 2 or 10 seconds, that will decide the kind of the total power that has been supplied during the welding. So that we can say as if we are supplying the power at this rate, this much wattage per second, and if the welding is being done for 10 seconds, then what is the energy supplied for the welding purpose? And there is a direct relation. Whatever is the electrical power is being used for developing the ultrasonic weld joint, that relates very well with the certain joint characteristics. Like say you have supplied certain amount of the energy, okay, that is in form of like a certain joules you have supplied for the welding purpose. So electrical energy supplied in joule or watt per second, okay, for the welding purpose. Then at what say energy supplied in terms of the watt per second or the joule, this is the rate of energy delivery. Then there is a kind of simplified equation, K into HT raised to the power 3 by 2. So what is here? K is simply constant based on the kind of the electrical energy conversion mechanism which is being used, okay, like which type of the transducer is being used, what is the kind of the sonotrode tip dimensions, etc. Then H is the hardness, that is the Vickers hardness number of the metals which are being welded, and T is the thickness of the sheet in mm which is being which is to be joined. So in general, the rate of the power supply, the kind of the wattage that should be supplied, that for developing the sound joint, that in turn depends on the hardness of the metal and the sheet thickness. And this is true for most of the range of the metals to be welded, okay, using the ultrasonic the welding process, okay. So if your metal is harder or if your sheet thickness is harder, then it will require greater or higher the energy in terms of the joule to be supplied per second, okay. So this is the second aspect as far as the power requirement for the welding is concerned, for the metals of the, for different types of the metals or the different section sizes which are to be welded. So what we have talked about, I have talked about the kind of the stress distribution in ultrasonic welding, the general approach of ultrasonic welding, and then the temperature rise at the interface, and then energy requirement for the welding purpose, okay. So these are the three actually key things that significantly dictate the kind of the quality of the weld joint that will be. So what is important here, the tip, this tip is given of the shape of the different types, so that the vibrations, ultrasonic vibrations, can be applied in more focused way, okay. In any case, this will be leading to the certain kind of the indentation, you know. So if the indentation at the surface is being developed, like say indentation at the surface is being developed, then this will be leading to the weakening also, like say this, okay. And this is the interface, so you will be having the indentation both the sides. Now technically usually this indentation depth is about the 5% of the sheet thickness, okay. But if there is an appropriate combination of the parameter being used, where significant thinning is taking place, then this will be weakening the metal itself, Therefore, initially you may find, okay, welding for a longer time is fine, will be leading to the better development of the interfacial metallurgical joint, but excessive energy delivery, excessive longer, unnecessary longer welding time will be leading to the thinning of sheet, and that will be weakening the joint significantly. Okay, so that is why only here this is what I want to tell. Like, you can see these indentation marks both the sides. Huh? If these indentation marks are very weak, very deep, then they will be leading to the weakening of the base metal itself. So the failure in that case may not be triggered by the interfacial characteristics, but it will be triggered by these the weak things. So the energy being supplied, you see, the energy being supplied whenever it is low. So lower energy being supplied will be leading to the limited joining at the interface. Okay, limited joining at the interface is simply means that the joint is weak, and therefore the load carrying capacity of the joint, due to the limited joining here and there, your load carrying capacity will be very limited, very limited. That's what you can see here. The joint at the low in weld energy, the energy, you see, the metallic joining between the two components is very limited. But when the energy delivery is increased, let's say, so your strength of the joint, because of realization of the good metallurgical continuity across the interface, that improves the load carrying capacity, and that's why you get the much better improved load carrying capacity. Okay, so that's what you can see in these cases. But when this energy supplied is further increased, what you will notice, that the joint strength has come down. You see, the tensile load carrying capacity of the joint has been reduced. Why? Because increased surface indentations which are being developed will be acting as a stress razor, weakening the material, base metal itself. So the failure may not occur from the joint interface, but the failure of the base metal itself can take place in that case. Okay, so that's what can be seen here. So this is what a deformed thickness. So the deformed thickness here, you see deformed thickness, that is the section thickness of the component being left. So it is more when the energy is supplied is less, and section thickness due to the indentation is getting reduced. So that is the deformed thickness. Okay. And this temperature related plot also indicates the same thing about which I have said earlier. Like when this is like typical weld thermal cycle and the temperature relationship. So what we see here, when the weld time is say 0.2, 0.5 and 0.4. Okay, so what is the difference in all these cases? In the first case, where the applied load is this much, okay, and applied load is this much, it is same. So the first and last case, if you just consider these two cases, so one is here when 0.4 seconds, and another is here when the heat supplied is energy supplied is just for the 0.2 seconds. Okay, so when energy supplied is just for 0.2 seconds, then very high heating rate and very the fast cooling is being realized. And when it is for the longer time, you can see the rate of heating is slow and the cooling rate is also slow. On the other hand, when the load is increased, the load is low, you see, so at low load, your rate of heating is low, peak temperature is high, and this peak temperature comes down when you compare it with say higher load 1975 Newton, that is this one. Although welding time is different, but there is a marginal peak temperature being realized is marginally low. Okay. So that's all about the mechanism and the physics related with this ultrasonic welding. A few general things about the ultrasonic welding I will be talking in the next lecture. So maybe in another lecture we'll be able to complete this ultrasonic welding.